Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. Looks like we're finally live.
Not live yet on both
Okay.
Facebook and
All
YouTube.
right. Go back to Facebook. Bear with us, everybody.
Down on the bottom
This
left.
one go live. So I need to start this early so that everything's okay. And then
Oh yeah,
comments are here.
that's right.
Okay. And I'm live here. And I'm live here.
Okay.
Awesome.
And then when you stop this, it'll stop over here, and then
Okay.
one more step is to go back to Facebook
And
and end the live stream.
okay.
All right.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So, we are trying something new this morning. We are streaming live right here on YouTube, as always, but we're also streaming live on Facebook this morning. And we're going to see how it goes. So, thank you for being patient. We had a couple of false starts this morning and excited to be live. So, welcome. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan. This is Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. And all month long, I am creating a sweet little round journal inspired by the artist Tiffany Sharp, who has a new class out on circle journals, and I want to give her credit for the idea. And yesterday live, we created these first two pages, and I'm going to work in this journal and figure out how to bind it at the end. And I want to have some fun to see what it's going to look like to work in the round. And today I thought it would be fun to use my round gel printing plate, which I hardly ever use, for our conversation. And this month I will be pulling prompts from our 118 journal prompts, which are part of our end of year creative self care bundle sale. All the information about that is in the description of the video and on YouTube and on Facebook as well. And I'm not seeing Facebook comments. So if you're commenting, thank you, hello, good morning, you can hop over to watch me on YouTube at Painting in Your PJs Live with Minette, and I will stop by after the video and check in on those comments as well. And I am a huge fan of using art as creative practice and creative process for personal growth and self reflection. And at the end of the year, I really love to pause and look at what went well, what can I do better, what can I let go of, and how can I use my own creative practice to help me resolve all of the feelings and emotions as we transition from the end of one year into the beginning of a new year. And what do I want that to look like? And what do I want that new year to feel like? I'm curious if in the process, good morning, good morning. Thank you, Kim. Super excited to be here to have new faces and familiar faces joining me. I like my philosophy too, and I have been using this type of creative practice that I call write, paint, reflect for over a decade now as part of my personal practice, and it has continued to evolve and grow. I'm going to go ahead and switch over my camera here to my desk, my messy desk. And you can see I have my good morning, Mary. I have my gel plate here, my little round gel plate. And I have my little round book pages. I have a few round things I thought it would be fun to add some color to. And then I have some scrap paper to play on. I already started playing a little bit this morning with some handmade stamps. So I'm going to be using a variety of handmade foam stamps for my gel printing. And I'm going to stick with this palette that I ended up starting with and that I really love, which is turquoise blue, Naples yellow hue, and this alizarin crimson. It's a long word for 7 o'clock in the morning to do some gel printing and kind of just get some color down. Now, my prompt for today is to define my boundaries. And there is, I think, no better time than to reflect on, good morning, Blanca, no better time to reflect on our boundaries than the end of the year, getting ready for the holidays. When it comes to getting boundaries in place, I'm going to get a little bit of paint down on my gel print. The holidays can test and push all of our boundaries. So a nicer, not nicer, but maybe simpler way to talk about boundaries. And if you've never used a gel press before, they are magical. I absolutely love them. And I'm putting a really thin layer of acrylic paint on here. I always have scrap paper on hand to roll off my brayer because everything becomes collage fodder for later. And I really love this particular stamp. And so another way to think about boundaries is about managing expectations, managing your own expectations, managing other people's expectations as well. My daughter and her partner are coming home for 2 weeks, so we're going to have 2 extra people in the house. I've already done some journaling with a ballpoint pen about boundaries. And I thought about boundaries in a couple of different ways. Of course, there's setting those boundaries with family members, but then there's also boundaries with myself. So making sure that I'm continuing to exercise and eat healthy over the holidays. So I'm just cleaning up some of the ink around the edge of that, giving that a really nice rub on there. This is a fun piece of vellum, which I want to get all painted up. It'll make great collage fodder. And that one didn't quite work, so the paint got dry really fast. That happens here in Colorado. So I'm going to put a little bit of white paint. Actually, I'm going to try some of this Naples yellow hue over the top. And I'm working on watercolor paper. I've never gel printed on watercolor paper either. And it's hard to sort of press down there really firmly. I'm going to let that dry for just a second. And I love building up layers of color. And so when I started to do my journaling this morning, the right part of Write, Paint, Reflect, I really started to think about this idea of managing my own expectations around time, around energy, around food, around, all the things that are issues over the holidays, managing my own as well as other people's expectations. Let's see. We're going to really press that on there and maybe just let it sit for a minute. I'm getting all that extra paint on me instead of paper, which is fine. I love having painty hands. And so another way to think and talk about boundaries around time, energy, and relationships, again, it's about managing expectations. And it's also about honoring ourselves and others. Or use someone that expects too much of others with 20-somethings coming home. Good morning, Yvonne, for the holidays. I don't expect them to spend all of their time with us, but to go have adventures or to spend time with my son and his partner. Okay, that one worked way better. That looks cool. They kind of look like big bug eyes, don't they? So that made for some interesting texture. I'm going to continue to add a couple of layers to this to see what I can create. And gel printing felt interesting from this perspective of boundaries because it's a precise art and yet it's a very fluid art at the same time. And when we think about establishing boundaries, there's a metaphor in here in that it is a very multi-layered process. There's so much to consider. And when we think about boundaries, we can honor our own boundaries, but that doesn't mean that it gives us permission to step on other people's boundaries. So it becomes this very complex conversation. So all these thoughts are running through my head this morning as I'm sitting here, focused on my own personal boundaries and what do I want for the holidays? What do I want to happen? What do I want to experience? And how will I continue to stay true to myself and some of the goals that is that pearlescent white? I don't want pearl white. I want just plain white. So again, think about boundaries. And when I look back across the year, my boundaries with others are pretty good. I can get caught up in saying yes to too many things. So I'm mindful of that. That was a lot of white, but that's okay. So I'm going to maybe brush some of that off on another stamp here. Again, I have this sheet of paper and I'm just going to continue to use it to clean off my brayer. All right, so let's get some color on this other page here. What I love about this little small gel print is that it is great for printing directly into a journal page. It's movable. And sometimes it seems like gel printing is like an all-day thing that once you get set up that, you want to just keep going and making lots of prints. And so one of the things that I want to practice is using them periodically, that I don't have to use it and make tons and tons of prints, but that I can use it just to add a little bit of color and texture to pages and let them clear up. So I'm curious when it comes to setting boundaries. So fun, and I love there's a rim of another circle there. There's some grungy color coming off. The grungier, the better. Like it gets me happy. The grungier my prints tend to get. But when it comes to boundaries, we need clarity, not murkiness. We don't want our boundaries to be grungy. We really want our boundaries to be firm and solid. All right, I'm feeling like I need to get some blue down on these. And I can tell already this paint is thicker, and that was probably a little more paint than I needed. I'll probably clean some of that off and clean off my brayer on a stamp and see, will that come off here on the other side? A little bit. So when we're working with intuitive art processes, everything is an experimentation. So never feel like this is a process of perfection, but instead it's a process of experimentation. Similar to this idea of working with our boundaries. Let's see if we can create some fun. So this is a foam stamp I created. It's just a piece of really thin fun foam stuck on a tiny piece of cardboard. And I used, I think I used a ballpoint pen or maybe one of those little metal ball things to just carve into that fun foam. One of my some favorite little zentangle patterns there. But I want to just maybe have some fun here and see what happens. I'm going to pull some of that ink off. And I am being mindful to not get a ton of paint on this pretty page that I created yesterday. So I am trying to be a little bit cautious. I don't normally print on pages where the other side is already has color on it. So just cleaning off some of the paint off of some of those edges. And we have some of those botanicals showing through. So this is now starting to get really interesting. And it's like absurdly easy to relate this process to the multi-layered impact of boundaries and how boundaries become issues in our families and whether people are good at honoring boundaries or not. You know, as a parent, I have to be mindful of my children's boundaries. As a daughter, I need my parents to honor my boundaries. And I was at a Christmas party, so I have a lot of grunge here and I just want to clean my gel plate. So I am just going to get some white paint on here, let it dry, and see if we can clean up a little bit of this blue around the edges. Clean that brayer off. Even my brayer has all kinds of fun colors on it. So I am going to stick this on the gel plate and I'm going to let it dry for a second. I think that was one of the things I learned about gel printing along the journey was to be more patient and to let things dry on the plate. And I would get a much cleaner pull at the end when I went to pull those things up. And it's nice and warm and toasty down here this morning. So again, if you're watching on YouTube, welcome. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan. If you're watching live on Facebook this morning for the first time, welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. We're trying something new by live streaming in 2 different places at once. And I'm not seeing Facebook comments in the moment, but I will go back and comment on those a little bit later this morning. And while that is drying, so this is my page about boundaries. I can still see some of that writing peeking through. And I love that I've got some fun layers that are happening here. And I want to start to think about what do I want this page to be when it's complete. So for example, this page came together pretty easily. So yesterday was about what's the best advice that you've ever received. And some of the best advice I ever received was from my cousin Vicky that this too shall pass, talking about raising kids and when they're little, that if you just wait 3 days, whatever phase they're in will pass. And I think that's still true today, that no matter what is happening, no matter how I'm feeling or what I'm dealing with, that this too shall pass. And sometimes those words are really hard to hear, and sometimes they're exactly what we need to hear. But on a page about boundaries, I'm almost thinking I'm going to come in and maybe bring that Naples yellow back over the top of all of this and push all of this back. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I want to go with this page. And so sometimes what that means is maybe it's time to find some collage materials around. I have this little window, but I don't want to cover up all that beautiful gel printing. I have this funny little bird that's been floating around for a while. And I think this was a brooch by an artist, a brooch, however you say that. And I love the sort of fierce look of her. And you can tell I like birds. So apparently we have a bird theme going on here. And as I think about self-reflection around boundaries as we go into the holidays, some of that fierceness may be what's required. So she's going to go on here, but I need some more paint on here. And before I do that, so look how clean that gel print is coming off. I still have a little bit of white, and now I have this fun painty piece of paper over here. So I'm loving that. Okay, and just seeing this gave me an idea for where I want to go for the page. All right, so I'm going to set my gel print aside. What did I do with its box? I don't know. Oh, there it is. All right, let me get this put back in its box. And this is a nice size. I have a couple of really small ones. And so if you're just getting started, you don't need to order a gigantic one. Order a small square or a small rectangle or a round one to try. I even have a really tiny round one that came in a kit for some class I took at some point. Okay, so this is really lovely. I know, me too. It came out really cool. And that'll, again, it'll get used in collage somewhere else in the book because now I'm starting to create collage materials that are in the same palette that I'm starting with. All right, now we just did all that gel painting and you're probably wondering, what on earth is she doing? She's covering it all up. I'm not trying to cover it up completely, but I want to just push it back a little bit because I want the page to calm down. The page was feeling too busy. But when we put the effort into making all of those layers, it creates so much richness and depth on the page. And we're talking about art as creative process. And we're talking about art as self-discovery. It is all about the layers, right? It is all about the layers. So here was the blue around the edges, Blanca, of the gel print with the white over the top, and it picked up some of the red bits underneath. So like it created this gorgeous, almost like a big moon effect. Super cool. So I want to be able to see the layers that are underneath, but I don't want chaos on my page either, right? I don't want the chaos on my page either. So also now when I start adding the collage elements, I'm going to be able to actually see that character a little bit better. And I'm not quite there yet, so I'm going to keep going. And notice how I'm not trying to cover it all. I'm trying to allow some of those layers underneath to show. And the layers are drying really fast. If they weren't drying really fast, I would probably dry them first so that I wasn't creating mud on the page. Okay, clean my brayer off on this page. And this is a tiny format. If you're new to my show, welcome. So great to have you here. But I normally work in a much larger journal throughout the month of November. I did a whole series on gratitude and art journaling. And in that series, I worked in a 9 by 12 journal. So it's an interesting process to be working in now this tiny circle journal. And this circle journal was inspired by the artist Tiffany, I think it's Tiffany Simply Sharp maybe, on Instagram, and she released a great class recently on making circle journals, and so I was super inspired by her to create one. All right. So again, these are all handmade stamps. not wet enough, so my page is a little wet. So I got to get a little extra paint on there. In the winter here in Colorado where I live, it is so dry. Let's try that again. Little bit better. I just need a little bit of texture. I don't need a lot of texture, but I kind of wanted to have that sort of behind my bird up there, and I'm thinking I want a little more of the some of this texture behind her. Let's see if I think that I can line up just that edge there. It does not want to go. Okay, then we're not going to do that. So I can tell I'm going to want to bring back some of my blue, and I'm just going to continue to add these layers. But she feels like a fierce guardian of boundaries, doesn't she? And I'm thinking that, like I did on this page, that each page is going to have just one line that represents all the journaling I did underneath. And I love, I can still see a few little bits and pieces of those words. And I'm thinking the words for this page is, I am firm in my boundaries. I am firm in my boundaries. And when we stand strong in our boundaries, it increases our self-esteem, it increases our confidence. Now, setting boundaries and standing up for yourself can sometimes be really challenging for some of us, and to just take it slow. You're not trying to change everything all at once. But if there were just one thing that you wanted to be different during this holiday season, what would that be? Or to take it even deeper, where have you perhaps in the past not respected other people's boundaries? We all have that shadow within us. I know that I do. And you want to do a better job this holiday season of respecting boundaries. Clean off my stencil here. And I'm going to flip it over. So this one got a little messy up here, so when it's dry, I might go back over it maybe with a little white or a little white gel pen. My pages always surprise me, right? I often don't know the direction they're going to take me, so I'm always stay very present to curiosity on this journey. Very present to curiosity. Curiosity on your journey of self-discovery is your best friend. Rather than being in judgment, stay in wonder and just let yourself be surprised by exploring a theme like boundaries. So no judging, right? Just simply staying present to, I wonder if, I wonder what might happen if. I love this little star shape one here. Let's see if we can get that. Not quite. I think that would need a different color. So it's feeling now like it needs a little more contrast. So notice how dark she is. She's definitely the focal point. So if I get this really dry, I can come in maybe with a posca or a black stabilo and add some more shadows in here, and my line down here around I stand firm in my boundaries. And I'm noticing this lace here on this little design, and I just happen to have some lace lying on my table, and look at that. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. That feels really fun to add a little texture with some of this lace. It also brings in that little pop of white that I was looking for in a different way. And I don't want to glue this down until my page is completely dry. And I'm going to cut this a little bit long. And I haven't glued down my bird yet either. Okay, it's coming together. I'm going to hit this with the dryer, get it super, super dry, and then I will come in with some matte medium to glue these things down and some final details. Right? Isn't it amazing? Just that one tiny little touch. I went to Philadelphia this summer. Well, I flew into Philadelphia, but I went to see a couple of girlfriends and clients in Pennsylvania this summer. And one of them brought these big spools of lace that she had and shared it with us, and it was so fun. So I've been trying to use up some of the lace. All right, dry enough. I'm going to get a little matte medium on here. I'm going to get a little matte medium also right on the back of my bird. Grab a little scraper, just move that around the page. With magazine images, especially if you put the glue both on the surface and the back of your image, you will get a much smoother surface. Magazine images, when they get wet, they have a tendency to ripple and to tear. And so a hotel key card or gift card like this really helps you to smooth those down dramatically. And I actually think I'm going to go ahead and just put a little layer of matte medium over all of this, which is going to help me when I want to come add some of those final details over the top. And we'll see if this is going to work to glue this on. I don't know. I might need a little bit stronger glue, but we'll start here. And I will let this lace dry naturally. And it's picking up the blue. That matte medium is picking up the blue off my fingers, so I'm trying to find a clean finger. So a dryer won't get this as dry as I want it to be, so I'm just going to leave it wet. And now you can see the page is very wet because it's shiny, so I'm going to get some of this dry so I can continue to add some marks and my final words. And when it's completely dry, I will come in and trim off these edges that's still a little bit sticky. And all my poscas are on the other side of the studio. So let's see what else. Oh, maybe this will work. So I've got a Uniball Air Micro. I have a white posca. And I also have my favorite Stabilo Marks All pencil here because I feel like she just needs a little shading around her. Get a small brush. Again, I just want her to be sort of sitting solid, but that almost feels like a little bit too black. Excuse me. So let me grab a little bit of paper towel here. I might need a baby wipe instead, but I want to just push that back. I don't want to get rid of that, but I do want to just soften that shading behind her so she's still, there's a lot of drama there, right? Around the bird, and she's so black. So what this piece needs, we added the white, but it needs more black so that my eye moves around the page more effectively instead of just only being drawn to our fierce little bird. So I'm going to come in with this Uniball Air Micro, which is one of my absolute favorite pens. And I'm just going to bring some definition back to this fun little stencil here. And I also love drawing over stencils like this because I feel like when we add our own handwriting and marks to a page, it just makes that art feel more my own, even though I'm using someone else's stencil here. I definitely love working in the round. So one of the practices that I teach mostly in person as a creative depth coach, I use a lot of intuitive collage and I work with a process called journey circles where you work in the round. Plus, I'm completely obsessed with mandalas, which is also working in the round. So see how just adding that little bit of black starts to bring this whole piece together. So she's still pretty shiny. We've got a lot of glare there this morning. And with the journey circles, it's a lot of collage work. It's a practice that I use when helping people to really rewrite their life story. And we use collage to do that because collage is such a powerful way to access the soul of a story, right? To get below the surface of a story. So that's already feeling better with just those few little marks there on the page. And down here, we're going to write just small, I stand firm in my boundaries, which is just going to help me remember what this page was like. And I also feel like it just needs a little more My favorite part of doing a mixed media intuitive piece like this is this final mark making, and I can have a lot of fun getting pretty caught up in ending up overdoing it because I find the mark making to be such a fun part of the process. And I think I'm going to come in with just a little more of this white as well. I also had the curiosity when I started this process yesterday of whether working small meant that I would work faster, maybe complete more than one page at a time, but so far that doesn't seem to be true. So it's not about the size of the page, it is about the layering of the meanings. And so this page by itself is going to look like that. I stand firm in my boundaries. So I really like the way this came out. So again, this bird was from a beautiful handmade brooch that I cut it away from its background, and it was something that came from one of the Stampington magazines. I don't remember which one, but the this person's art was just exquisite. And I'm looking at this going, maybe I want to darken the edges of the circle here a little bit. I did that just a little bit on our birdie yesterday. This one, interestingly, didn't get a lot of surface marks made. A busier page, but still following the same palette. And where did I put the cover? Don't know. Oh, here it is. So again, I'm working a page at a time and I will figure out how to bind it at the end. But this butterfly here has inspired this palette. It looks like I got a little of that turquoise acrylic I'm working with today on the cover, but I love that little bit of turquoise on the cover. And so it's going to be interesting to figure out how to work, because this is not the next page, right? This is some other page in the journal. This will be the back cover and inside back cover. And it's going to be fun to explore where this project is going to take me. So yesterday was about advice. Today is about boundaries. Tomorrow I will be live in the evening instead of the morning at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So you can make a note in your calendars if you would like to come and join me live. And I have this little puddle of turquoise paint still sitting here on the page. So I think I'm going to use it up because I always want to use up the paint. I'm going to have to cut some more circles. So I cut these circles using a die cut and a Sizzix cutting tool, but you could absolutely cut these by hand. And I have a few different shapes and sizes here as well. So I'm thinking that I want to get some color and some marks down on these and use up this extra paint that is on my palette here. And there's even probably, yeah, still a little bit of that red on there as well. And again, this is just about building layers. There's no rhyme or reason to what I'm adding to the pages. This stencil just happened to be sitting here on the page. I'm going to get the ink off of all sides of that stencil. You can tell I never wash my stencils. I don't wash my gel plate either. Let's see, I'm wanting to get something down on this newsprint too. So I might even just come in and it'll create some interesting shapes on the page, but just start to build up color on some of these. Again, just simply using up the rest of that paint on my palette. I love this little tiny brayer. This came in a set of brayers that I got at one point on Amazon, and it has become my favorite brayer. So now just with that little bit of ink, I've got some base layers down. I will probably gel print some more over the top of these, but the next time I come tomorrow evening to sit down and play, okay, this is already looking super fun, then I will already have some color down on the pages. And I want to play this, the center spread of the journal, I'm thinking is going to have some fun multi-layered circles. And what I'm loving, this looks like an owl face. I love owls, but I want to create some kind of maybe little flip book in the center. So just sitting here for this, hour this morning, I've got some fun ideas. I have already some other collage papers in my same palette started. I've got these are going to be really cool. This transparent vellum with needs some more layers, but I have created like what a productive, and it's only been about 45 minutes. So many times we think we need hours and hours a day to play, but usually 15 to 30 minutes makes such a difference. And the more consistent we are with our self reflection practice, the better we feel, the more authentic we become, and the better we're able to prioritize our boundaries and what matters most to us. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan. This is Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. You can subscribe here on YouTube and be sure to like the video. If you hit the little notifications bell underneath this video, you'll get notified when I do go live. So appreciate every single one of you for joining me live, for catching the replay, and for playing along this month with our end of year reflection bundle. And don't forget to take a look at our 2023 Creative Self-Care Bundle. There are 3 downloadable printables of prompts and coloring pages, as well as 2 of my favorite courses, one on zentangle and one on the connection between color and emotions, all for only $29. So go check it out. The link is in the description of the video. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.